Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for all your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail.
Yo, what is up, fantasy football fiends? My name is Ziggy Guns along with
JT Magnum.
and today we are going to go ahead and bring you the results of our first of probably many already, but first Yahoo mock draft for fantasy football 2013. Here's the results. We're going to talk about why we picked somebody where or who we picked. And all right, what do you think? What's your input on it, JT?
Well, it was a fun mock draft. And Siggy had the first pick and I had the 7th pick. So Siggy will start off letting you know who he picked, where, and why, and then I'll let you know why I picked who I picked and why, and we'll get into it. So you'll see on the screen right now, well, Siggy's not, but he knows what he picked, so the first round results.
Yeah, number one pick, obviously, no doubt, no brainer, Adrian Peterson. He had a monster season last year. He's 100% back, and there was no reason to doubt, especially now, his knee. So, safest pick, Adrian Peterson. That's why I went 1.
Yeah, and I had the 7th, so I was actually shocked because Marshawn Lynch fell into my lap, and if you guys know, I have him like 3rd on my fantasy football list, 3rd or 4th. I think he's like 3rd or 4th, one of the two, but he kind of fell to my lap at 7, so I took him immediately.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at the first round, I had a lot of shocks, but we'll save that for another.
The first round is always, you're always going to get obviously a good pick in the first round. I mean, sometimes you might get a bust here and there, but first round you pretty much is your money makers. And I was actually shocked no quarterbacks were taken in the first round.
I'm
no Aaron Rodgers at all.
Very shocked. It's a different culture, it seems. Either that means that there's a lot of deep, good running backs, number one type running backs, or it just means that everybody is new and they want to just get the running back because everybody's been told running back always.
Yeah. I don't see reaching for some running backs when I know there's always going to be those points there with a good quarterback. So it's your chance to get an elite quarterback. But we're going to go to round 2. And I had the 6th pick in round 2 coming back on the back end. And I was able to actually pick up Chris Johnson, which he fell to me there. And I was noticing the trend of people just picking running backs and receivers. So I was like, wow, I might actually get a good running back then. I can just save my pick for the next time coming back around for a quarterback. That's what I was thinking in my mind. And Siggy had the 12th pick, it looks like, and he'll tell you about his.
I got, in my opinion, a top 5 pick in Drew Brees. I mean, how can anybody, especially a 12-man league, let me get Drew Brees and Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, that's a lot of points right there.
I mean, them two could carry. We've seen it before in the past where if you have two solid people, like especially, I know you remember it, Brady to Randy Moss. If you had both of them, you could win each week just by them two alone. Mm-hmm. I feel I could do that with these two. So, and then in 3 to start it off, I could have had my pick with another running back, but I decided, it looks like everybody's starting to make a receiver run, so I went with Julio Jones. I could have probably picked Larry Fitzgerald also. Can't go wrong with either or, but Julio Jones, in my opinion, was a safer pick, so that's why I went there.
So, of course, I had the 7th pick in the 3rd round, and I decided to take a tight end because I noticed that tight ends were going. And I was like, well, I might as well pull the best tight ends because I don't feel like it's a very deep tight end draft this year. So, and I noticed that Aaron Rodgers was gone, Drew Brees was gone, and I was like, well, there's still a lot of good quarterbacks left, so now's a good chance to reach for a nice tight end because there's a really deep wide receiver class, and I'd already had 2 running backs. So that's why I picked Vernon Davis as my tight end. I think he's going to have a really good year, and I feel he's going to have a solid, amazing year. So that's why I picked him in this spot. So we're going to move on to round 4, where I had the pick on the back end, and that's why I picked my quarterback. And since I had Vernon Davis and the guy, I was actually going to take Tom Brady. but the guy picked him just before I picked him at number 5, and I was like, son of a gun. So I ended up picking Colin Kaepernick, who was my next rated quarterback on there, and since he's throwing to Vernon Davis, I might as well pick him. Might as well have the 2. So that's why I picked him at number 6 in round 4, and Siggy, of course, had the 12th.
Yeah, I went with Darren McFadden. I wanted to get another solid running back. I was hoping David Wilson will fall to me. Somebody picked him right away, or right before I did, and I couldn't go wrong though with having Darren McFadden. Yes, there's an injury risk. Oakland is a pretty bad team, but when healthy, he has the potential to be, a very solid number 2 running back. And then I still needed to build up better receivers. I went ahead and got Desean Jackson. He's been around round 5 on average. I've noticed on a lot of the mock drafts I've done. I think this is a guy though that has a potential to be a top 10 receiver for sure, with this offense that Chip Kelly's bringing, and the fact that Michael Vick and him have good rapport, and I think it will show right away.
Yeah, and for my 7th pick in round 5, I needed to go wide receiver. I was actually going to go Pierre Garcon or Torrey Smith, and all of them got taken right before I had a chance to grab them. So I took the next best thing in Wes Welker. He's going to get you catches. He's going to get you yards. He's going to score in those short down situations when they're on the goal line. Peyton Manning loves to throw those quick outs on the outside or quick slants on the outside. So I see Wes Welker getting a lot of catches and touchdowns, or just a lot of yards, period, racking them up. So that's why I picked him there. And then we go to round 6, and I decided to get another wide receiver. And I picked up Mike Wallace from Miami. He's got the speed. Tannehill's starting to get a little bit accustomed to him, so he's obviously going to get the ball. Quick slants or quick screens or how possible way he can get the ball, they're going to give it to him, and he's got breakout potential anytime, so I had to pick him there.
Yeah, and same with me. I needed to build my receiving core. I was hoping Cecil Shorts fall to me, but he didn't. Stevie Johnson is who I picked. Of course, the quarterback situation, we don't know what it is yet in what's it called, Buffalo. EJ Manuel, I think when healthy, is going to be the starter. Obviously, we found out what's his name has a concussion now.
Cobb, yeah.
And he might, apparently, his career end or threatening.
Yeah, Jeff, the kid Toole is going to actually start the year as quarterback.
Toole will start the year quarterback, so who knows what you're going to get out of him. But regardless, Stevie Johnson is their number 1 receiver, and he's shown in the past that he can put up some good fantasy numbers. So that's why I needed to build a wide receiver core right there with him. And then I decided to go tight end at this point. Rob Gronkowski, I believe he just got put in the PUP list while we're doing this video. So he's going to be out the first 6 games, right? Did I read that? I think I just read that.
Yeah.
So he's definitely going to be out for 6 games. So now, granted, we did this before all this news came out. But at that time, it was pretty round 7, Gronkowski, the number 1 rated tight end, on most sports sites. I thought it was pretty good value for him, even if he is out 6 weeks.
Now, with a couple wide receivers in the balance and a tight end, my quarterback and my running back sewed up, I decided to go defense here because I was like, might as well get myself a top defense, and I picked my 49ers defense, of course, because Seattle's was gone. I was actually going to take Seattle, but they got picked the round before. So I had to go with the next best thing, and I decided to go with San Fran's defense there. And as you can see, a lot of wide receivers were being taken, and the tight ends were just pretty much starting to get taken at the end. And we go to round 8, where I, of course, had the 6th pick again. And I did a nice little running back switch. I was going to take a wide receiver, but then I saw there's so many still. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get myself a backup running back. And I decided to pick up Giovanni Bernard. Now, this kid's been running very well in the preseason. I don't know the situation, if he's going to split carries with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, or he's going to start. I have a feeling Green Ellis is going to start to begin with, but this kid is going to end up starting eventually over Green Ellis. And I see, because Green Ellis he gets injured, and I just see this kid. He's got breakout potential, and I just have a feeling that by the middle of the year or end of the year, being he's a backup running back, he actually might be a fantasy stud later on for me.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right in that. I've been watching Hard Knocks, and they even saying that he's at least going to be the goal line carrier, so he'll be the vulture back, probably around the end zone. So
yeah, he's a good back.
So if anything, even if he's just getting that, he's getting you more points probably than what Ben Jarvis Green else would get. I also wanted to go running back. I picked what I think is a sleeper, especially around round 8. Daryl Richardson, who was announced a starter for St. Louis. Now, we all know Steven Jackson had some pretty solid numbers even on a bad St. Louis team. I think St. Louis is actually going to be decent this year. And I know the receiving still has some issues, but Daryl Richardson also can catch out of the backfield. And I think he's going to have a very Reggie Bush type of season. Not necessarily Reggie that might be projected for this year Detroit, but maybe last year Miami kind of player. So hopefully that's what I can get out of that spot. And then in round 9, it started off. I wanted to go defense also. I picked Pittsburgh defense. All the good defense were already gone at that point. I'm just banking on the name. Steelers defense. Steelers defense is always, in my opinion, going to be a top 10 type of defense every year because they really, a lot of defensive people, they take pride. It's kind of like a Yankee player. No matter how bad the team seems to play, they take pride in putting that uniform. I think a lot of the defensive people, especially in Pittsburgh, do the same thing. I think Pittsburgh should have a solid defense.
Yeah, and for my 7th pick in round 9, I still needed a wide receiver, so I took the best receiver I saw available, and I grabbed Josh Gordon. And he's looked good in preseason. Of course, Whedon's throwing to him, so I think Whedon's going to have not a breakout year, but Whedon's going to have a really pretty good year. And Josh Gordon, I felt, was going to be the recipient of that, especially at that time. I think he was one of the best receivers available at that time. So we go to round 10 where, of course, again, once I had the 6th pick, and I feel like I got the steal here where I was actually able to get Jordan Cameron for my backup tight end. Now, he might actually – I feel like I know I have Vernon Davis, but Jordan Cameron could be one of those players that he could actually break out because he just, like I said, is another one of those preseason players where he looks like he just gets it, and he's tall, big, fast, and just catches the ball over the middle and not afraid of anything. He seems like he's going to get a lot of goal line catches, so hopefully that'll happen for me for this. That would happen for me for this situation.
I just needed a receiver also. Santonio Holmes is who I picked here. Now, obviously, this was before, the 3rd preseason game and stuff like that. We did this a while back. Now I probably wouldn't pick him at all because apparently he's also going to be in the PUP list. He's saying he's not ready. He's pretty much acting like he might not be ready till late in the year, if at all. So bad pick by me in that spot in round 10 because I don't even know if he's going to play. And then in round 11, here's where here in the late rounds you start just trying to grab people that you think might be a steal or somebody that might be able to contribute. Bilal Powell, nobody's really talking about him for the Jets. The Jets running back situation looks like it's going to be Chris Ivory and Powell also sharing the ball. He's been running in the preseason. I think eventually he will probably be kind of like Giovanni Bernard. Eventually he might take over if Ivory doesn't show that he's healthy. So, it was a pick there that maybe I reached at that round, but certainly in these late rounds, it's whatever.
And for my pick in the 11th round, I had Mark Ingram. And I like Mark Ingram a lot. The only thing is, as I look back at it now, and I've been watching these preseason games, remember this was about a week or two ago, and I feel Pierre Thomas is the guy actually in New Orleans that's going to get the majority of the touches and the majority of the carries, and he seems to be the main guy and the main focus in New Orleans, and he just seems to have the lock on that running back spot where Mark Ingram's going to be the kind of guy that spells them and probably gets some of the goal line carries. But if I had this pick all over again, I think I'd pick Pierre Thomas this time. So just to let you guys know that I think Pierre Thomas is actually over Mark Ingram now in my rankings, just because I just see him in the depth chart as being behind him now. But so we go on to round 12. I got another one of my sleeper picks this year, and I don't know if he's much of a sleeper pick for anyone, but I hope I don't butcher his name, but I think it's Cordarrelle or Cordero. Actually, it's Cordero.
Cordero.
I saw it when they played the Niners this week. They said it's Cordero. Cordero Patterson. He's the rookie wide receiver. This guy is just speedy, fast, and he's going to be on the field. He's going to get on the field a lot. They're going to try to get him the ball, and I just see him as another sleeper pick. He's a great pick to put in for when your other receivers are on buys, or if he happens to break out, then you can insert him as a starter. But I got him really low, obviously, in round 12, and I felt like that was kind of a steal there. And if you look at some of the receivers that were taken ahead of him, I mean, Denarius Moore, Darius Howard-Bay, Emmanuel Sanders, I don't feel like those guys are going to get more touches than him. If they do, it'd be a miracle. But I just see him doing better than them, so I think I got him late. Is a pretty good steal.
Yeah, I was looking for receiver also in that round. I wound up taking Justin Blackman. I really wanted Kimbrel Tompkins, though. That's somebody that I think everybody's sleeping on. Tom Brady's going to be throwing to more than one person. And
He looks good.
Yeah, I think, looking now, if I had to redo a draft, I'm actually picking him.
Yeah. He's another one of those guys that I've been looking at in preseason. He seems to be catching a lot of deep balls. Brady loves him for some reason. He's catching on like that.
Exactly.
When I see Brady throwing the ball to guys like that, you know that come regular season, you got to keep it in the back of your mind. These are the guys I got to pick up. I mean, I know it's just preseason, but when Brady's throwing to them, you know that they're open. So that's a guy that you should be looking at if you want a little bit of help on your fantasy team, and you want that one guy that might be a steal this year to get you over the edge for like your third wide receiver spot.
Kimbrel Tompkins, yep. That's who I was hoping for. I want to pick in Justin Blackman, who again, that looks like my last three wide receivers is on the pup list. No, he's not on the pup list. He's suspended for 4 games, I think.
Yeah.
So
the first 4 games for I think it's substance abuse.
Yeah.
You know how to pick them. Your whole team, you're gonna be hitting the waiver wire at the beginning of this.
Round 13, I picked Carson Palmer. I needed a backup quarterback. Here's somebody that I think is just like we've talked about on our quarterback show. Here's somebody that I think is going to have awesome numbers, and not only because he's finally going to have a receiver to throw to, but because Bruce Arians is the coach. He's going to be rejuvenated. He's finally off of bad teams. Not necessarily saying that Arizona is a good, or a great team or like that, but it's certainly better than what he had all around, in my opinion. Defense is better. He should be able to have the ball more, and I just think that he's poised to have a good year. Very solid fantasy year.
Yeah, and for my 7th pick, I picked another wide receiver for backup, Jacoby Jones. Solid, decent wide receiver, decent, bench player. Obviously, I don't know how much of the balls he's going to be getting, but he is obviously starting up outside of Torrey Smith. So it's a lot of speed on the outside. One of those two are going to get double covered, so it leaves the other one open. So we'll see who gets the ball the most. I would bet it's going to be Jacoby Jones because Torrey Smith just seems more of a threat. So if he can break free on some of that signal coverage this year, maybe he'll get some deep balls and I can get some points. But round 14, coming backwards, I picked up my backup quarterback and I actually picked Brandon Weeden. So I figured I have some of these receivers that I can use. If I have a Josh Gordon or somewhere as my third wide receiver, and I need to bench my quarterback, obviously, for my bye week, why not throw Brandon Weeden in there and Josh Gordon, have him throw to, and hopefully that game he would throw to Josh Gordon for some touchdowns, and maybe I can get some points that way. I like to do that when I'm drafting. I like to draft at least some, if I have a decent backup quarterback, at least have a receiver that he's throwing to on my starter list. So that's kind of how I think when I'm drafting.
So was it hard passing Jay Cutler at that point? Because he's solid also fantasy wise. He might not be, great, but this is a guy that at one point everybody thought was an awesome quarterback.
Yeah, he just throws too many interceptions for me.
Yeah.
So does Weeden actually, but Weeden just seems to have like that. He just has that it factor for the preseason where Cutler is just. You never know with him.
Yeah, you really don't. He's kind of like what what's his name was, Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
He can either have that game where he throws 353 touchdowns or he throws 3 interceptions for 100 yards. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I picked another guy that's not going to hit the field anytime soon. now this to be
a trend here.
To be fair here though, this is the final round before a kicker. If you look at the names of the tight ends that were taken before, Zach Studfeld, who? And then Brandon Pettigrew was the name that I really was wanting at that point. It's just a backup tight end. Rob Hausler. I mean, this is literally bottom of the barrel. Everybody took tight ends in this draft. I took the name one. He's not going to play for I think 8 weeks actually. But when he does come back, he puts up pretty good fantasy numbers. But obviously, with Gronkowski being down for 6 weeks and then Heath Miller being down for 8 weeks, if this was really the real draft, I would have had to drop one of them and pick up a tight end, even if he's very bad that isn't going to get to play much. Round 15, this is the kickers, run.
This
Now
is nothing but kickers.
this is the kicker run for us though, because it seemed like everybody else grabbed their kickers early.
Yeah, they did.
So it like me and JT are old school fantasy players. We always take our kickers last. There really is no reason to. Here's a staggering stat here that I need to talk about. The kicker spot, the best kicker last year had like 140 points or 155 points on most standard scoring leagues. The 16th kicker, the 16th best fantasy kicker, and there's only 30 something, right? 16th was only 20 points behind him. So that just tells you that
Yep.
picking kicker is not important at all. That you're talking about 1 or 2 point difference a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So not worth it at all. Dan Bailey is who I took, Cowboys kicker. Might as well. Cowboys, if there's one thing I know living in Texas is that Dallas can get it to the red zone, and most of the time it's either going to be messed up by Romo and they have to kick a field goal. So that's
Yeah,
what
I went with Mike Nugent. I figured I already know Cincinnati had a rough red zone offense last year. They're kicking a lot of field goals, so I just picked them. I mean, and I am the first person that would tell you also, I pick kickers last because it's no use for them. I mean, I will drop my kicker during a bye week and just pick up the next best kicker.
That's
Like,
what
I don't care. The only way, like I said before, the only reason you should be picking kickers is if there's some kind of point bonus for long field goals in your league. Like some leagues, they do their own point systems and they have like these crazy point bonuses for long field goals. Like if you have one of those and then obviously a Blair Walsh or Zerloin from St. Louis, or Matt Prater, these guys with the legs, like these huge legs that be bombing field goals, those are the guys you want. But still, not this early. Like
Yeah.
maybe in the 14th round, but not at the 5th. I still will not do it. Like I just can't bring myself to pick a kicker
I
when
can't.
they don't have any value fantasy wise for you. But they're not scoring that much points. I mean, maybe there's occasional days where a kicker can get you a win if they kick like 5 field goals in a game, where a
Yep.
kicker can actually help get you over the top. But how many of those games do they really have? I mean, no.
Exactly.
So that'll do it, guys, for our first mock draft that we did. We're actually going to do a real fantasy draft coming up. That'll be probably the Wednesday. You'll probably see that the Wednesday before, or Tuesday or Wednesday before the season starts next Thursday. And on top of that, before that, we're gonna give you, our next show will be about our sleepers and some of our like picking strategies and things like that we do. And then, like I said, that Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, we will give you our actual fantasy football picks. We joined NFL.com fantasy, and we're competing for an actual ring. So
Yep.
we're trying to get the championship ring. So we'll tell you the results of that after every show during the week about how we did during our week for that. And then every Wednesday we're gonna give you our picks, our stardom and situms for the week, our like first one. And then Saturdays before game days on Sundays, we'll be giving you our starters and situms for Saturday too. We'll do basically an update to make sure you're up to date if there's any injuries or anything happening, or some quick waiver wire pickups that we can give you. So we're trying to get on a nice schedule. Bear with us. We're trying to work here and try to figure out everything as we go along. But we'll give you everything up to the minute that we can, barring injuries and things are happening. And we're able to do that because we're on YouTube. So for JT Magnum and
Ziggy Guns.
Fantasy Football Fiends, we out.
Peace.